Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the second episode of this special series that Couchonomics is doing with the Qatar Development Bank, or so-called QDB. We're beaming in from Scale 7 in Doha in Qatar. And joining me on the stage is someone I actually met last year during the Singapore Fintech Festival. His name is Mohammed Suleiman, and he's the co-founder of a digital wallet called Karty. With that, let me welcome Mohammed to the couch.
Thank you, Arjun, and pleasure to be here. Looking forward to it.
And thank you for making the time.
Thank you as well.
So we're going to get straight into it. We've got about 35 minutes to talk about it. So Karty, if I understand it correctly, because I think you're infrastructurally ready, but you've yet to launch, right, is positioning itself in the Qatari market as a digital wallet. And you want to lead with, if I'm not wrong, financial management, literacy, and savings. Let me ask you a very straight question. Why does Qatar need Karty?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think the wallet market in Qatar is dominated heavily by telco wallets, which are doing a great job in servicing the low-income workers, certain services like remittance and access to wage protection systems. But still, there is a gap with the big, let's say, segment, which is mass affluent, where wallets can actually service them better and give additional complementary services to what they would already have. So what we are aiming to achieve with the customers, that when they use Karty, they have better financial understanding of their habits, their spending, they get insights, they get analytics. So they basically get a toolbox of how to manage their money in a better way.
Okay. My experience, financial literacy is great.
Yeah.
It benefits a lot of people, as you said, but it's very hard to monetize.
That's correct. So it's bundled with the wallet itself and the card. So when the customer makes a transaction, or usually within a card or a wallet environment, you get fees from these transactions. So transactions are secondary, and they must happen for the customer to get these insights or to get these analytics. So it's connected together. It's not just providing the insights and analytics standalone. It's all together in this Karty wallet ecosystem.
Okay. All right. Now that makes sense. And so this will come to it, and I will come to you a little later to talk a little bit about your product roadmap and how do you actually have conceived it or have it in a roadmap. But let's take a step back, right? And I'd be very keen to hear your perspective. Digital wallets have been around for a while, right? Globally, we've had them for a while. Obviously, even within the GCC in the MENA region, we've had them for a while. It's a very interesting market because you have on one side, as you said, telcos who have used their large customer bases to go after a specific customer base. I totally appreciate that they've gone down the route of targeting the blue collar worker with, cross-border money, remittance, micro savings, so on and so forth. I think my question is how many of them will actually evolve into something bigger, because that's a segment which is highly competitive, hard to make money from, right? And I work with a number of them, right? We obviously have the big tech players, which are quasi wallets, whether it's Apple Pay, Google Pay, right? A number of banks now are starting to launch their wallets, right? You have vertical SaaS players who might be in the delivery business or in the retail and e-commerce business who also want to introduce a financial services play and want to launch wallet. And then we have independent wallets like you guys, right? So this is less of a Karty question. I just want to take your perspective, Mohammed. How do you see the market evolving in Qatar?
The landscape have actually gone into a different level right now. So what was acceptable 2 years ago or 3 years ago isn't acceptable now, or actually the basic or the minimum for wallets or financial services providers to provide it within the market. So I would say the game isn't as easy as it used to be. In terms of offering unique value propositions, acquiring the customers, and which is even harder to maintain them. So customer expectations actually grew as well, even from incumbent players like the banks, etc. They have really improved their proposition. But still in Qatar, there is a room for wallet players to play. And even in the wider financial technology ecosystem, there is a lot of solutions that we're missing. Majority of the players in the market, including us, are in the payments space. We're still, I think, just earlier in the year, a buy now pay later company launched. They are doing really well from what I'm hearing, but you need more fintech players in different verticals. You need more in open banking. You need more in embedded finance, insurance brokers. The regulator have launched a very ambitious fintech strategy, which outlines the target by 2030 of the number of, let's say, verticals that they would like to have. So still, I believe there is an opportunity in Qatar and in the region. And also there is a lesson learned from different markets. Like you have said, APAC market, there is a lot of learned lesson that we can get from there, localize it and implement it in Qatar market or GCC market.
Okay, and you know, I'm watching it. I've been here 15 years. You know, I've seen it evolve. I've seen different markets evolve at a different pace. I think it's quite impressive. I know the company you're talking about with the BNPL player, which launched. I actually spoke to one of your peers earlier today. That was a very interesting discussion too. If I double click and take this question to Karty, then one of the things that, you know, I personally think I bet on is the following. One is we're going to see some level of convergence happen across multiple verticals or fintech sectors. You know, for example, BNPL is an interesting discussion. Some people see it as a payment product, the others see it as a lending product. I don't want to get into a debate, but you know, both answers can be right for all I care, right? But the interesting takeaway for me is that there is a very interesting convergence between, you know, the ability to make a payment, right, and the ability to raise a short-term loan, right? Although they wouldn't like to call it a loan, but it is a loan in all intents and purposes. So you're starting to see some convergence. I've also seen some very interesting convergence in terms of savings and payments, right? Where you actually have nudges and roundups where people can do savings. So there's convergence on one end. And the other side, on the wallets, you have multiple rails, right? You have the card rails, you have faster payments, and in some markets you have, you know, QR-based closed loop payments. And then in some cases, wallets are embedding themselves into wider marketplaces. I don't know if you read 2 days ago, PayPal is embedding itself in ChatGPT to allow for its commerce. From a Karty perspective, where do you think you see yourself heading in the next 2 to 3 years? Firstly, from a vertical perspective, you know, what would be the value-added products, or I don't want to call it value-added, what would be the other products that you would add? And then what's your view in terms of these multiple rails of payments which are emerging? How does that change the marketplace?
I think that has evolved while we were building the product itself as well. Because as I said, what was acceptable 2 years ago isn't acceptable now. So even our product, let's say, features itself or value proposition, kept evolving. Like you have just mentioned, the roundups, we have it in Karty as one of the features.
So that's already within. So when you launch, you will launch with roundups.
We will have that hopefully, inshallah, within the market. But done in a different way. So for example, in different countries, you expect fractions within your payment. Over here in Karty, we are expecting more of percentages because that would work better with the local spending habits. So in terms of value proposition, it keeps growing, and we also get inspired by other players within the region. In terms of payment rails or infrastructure that we aim to leverage, it's a wallet initially backed by a prepaid Visa card that the customers use. But the way we see it, we are the e-money or EMI issuer where we hold the customer balance or the top amount. So we have to enable all these channels. So if the customer spends through Apple Pay where he adds the card there, it's to the benefit of the customer. If he gets a local card, which we plan to issue later on, depending on the roadmap and the regulatory landscape, there is a new scheme called Himyan as well. We plan also to have a local wallet issued through that, or a local card. So for us, we need to enable the customer to give him the option, spending through the wallet directly, or spending through QR code, spending through the Visa card, spending through Apple Pay, or spending through the local scheme. As long as we're giving that functionality to the customer and we're giving him that benefit, it's okay for us as a wallet, because you have to sit in a layer where, let's say, you're a middle layer that allows everything to happen. And we see Karty itself as a layer after banking. So it doesn't compete directly with the local bank proposition or it doesn't compete directly, but it's a complementary layer that would work with the customer when they are spending in their daily financials.
Okay. My question is, you said you won't compete with the banks, and I totally appreciate it. Why should you? You don't have to, and so on and so forth. But the the wallet business is fairly brutal in the sense, in terms of, razor thin margins, high cost of customer acquisition, arguably, right? Um, a customer who sometimes is loyal but not loyal, right? Especially if they have multiple wallets, right? So, having said that, won't you actually have to start introducing more banking type products? And savings is a great one to introduce, because I think people get used to that. Then that, there is. Won't you have to eventually get into some sort of lending offering on the product, whether that's buy now pay later or some other form? Do you not see you introduce some sort of an investment vehicle on the product? Are you going to do cross border payments? What are some of the features that are actually already bumbling in your roadmap, without you sharing the secret of Karty's strategy?
No, definitely. The product roadmaps keeps updating. And for example, you mentioned a good one from an investment side, or even from BNPL or lending option. It could be done, definitely, but for a fintech player, it should be done in a partnership with another player. So let's say, for example, I partner with a BNPL company, or I partner with an investment company, or a remittance exchange house company to provide remittance services while staying, let's say, to my core as well. But to the customer, you're becoming a little bit slowly like a super app, where you're giving out these small features and you're enabling them. Actually, I remember when we started, it was targeting certain personas. Then while it evolved, yes, personas are true to a certain context, but at the same time, with each feature, you're targeting a different profile or a different customer. So virtual wallet or supplementary cards could benefit maybe family members, or could benefit parents giving cards to their kids. Lending products or WPS could benefit a certain category. So it's not as easy, correct, in a wallet space. The competition isn't. But at the same time, if we look at Qatar market from a wallet perspective, potentially it can be very lucrative. Because if you look at the data that the central bank shares every month, talking of average spend that happens only on a card level, it's very high. It's more than 2,900 riyal a month, or 3,000 riyal a month, which is very healthy across, let's say, the average number of cards, or let's say payment types available in the country. So that means, yes, it could be that initially the number of customers that could be attract is less, but the volume could be substantial.
Agreed. See, I'll get to my point in a minute, in the sense I actually see a trajectory which is being repeated again and again. And I personally think most players, and I'm not suggesting Karty to do that, will go down that route. But I think you talked a little bit about, and I want to explore a double click on it, is in terms of customer acquisition, what's going to be your strategy? Like, how are you going to go and get a significant amount of customers? Because as you said very correctly, that Qatar actually has a very interesting dynamic, even from a demographic perspective, right? We have a significant expat population, right? And within that expat population, we have quite a lot of diversity. Someone mentioned there's 80 different nations, right? You then have, the local population. You then have to sort of look at some of the age differences that exist, and people are used to it. So what is your sweet spot? Where are you going to target? How are you going to acquire the initial customer?
Initially, the main two segments are students out of university, and also young adults up to the age of 35. But we will start actually a little bit closer. We have a community group of waitlist customers, and majority of them are word of mouth. So we see the numbers increasing and people signing up, but majority of it is a person telling another person within the country, okay, I'm interested in this product, and they actually go through the website, sign up. And even the signing up process initially wasn't as easy. They have to verify their email, but we got a very good number as a start. So we will start with this community, let's say you could even consider them potentially as brand ambassadors. They are the ones who are early adopters, who are looking for new technology products to try. And from that, we will expand and iterate. We did a lot of events, exhibitions. We participated in them last year, Web Summit. So these opportunities gave us, let's say, a very good customer feedback of what we are going to release. Also, in terms of customer interviews, we listen to what they potentially would like to have within the app. So we'll start from there and keep
No, it's
iterating.
good. Yeah, so I was going to come to it, right? So I've lived through a few wallets in my life. I actually launched one also myself quite a few years
I'd
ago,
love to hear about that.
right? And what one clear picture which is emerging, and I think you alluded to it, was a lot of the wallets launch as a single side, a payment sort of instrument. Then they start looking and become dual side. They introduce some sort of a acceptance play to it too, because they want to build the ecosystem. And then before they know, they're starting to look like a financial super app, right? And always have a few hero products, always have features. And I think that track record, to be honest with you, has proven to be quite attractive. I guess the question is how quickly you go through that evolution from one to n, right? One to n, n being not end as in the n, because that's kind of where you start developing what I call the flywheel effect among the several products. In any case, this is not about what I think, this is about you. Very interesting discussion you and I were having before we started. You have obviously gone through the entire regulatory journey from the very beginning, right? You're very close to, inshallah, launching. So hopefully, you're going through it. You've also had a lot of engagement with the institutions here, whether that has been the QDB, QFC, right? Talk me through that journey from a perspective of how has the Qatar ecosystem evolved in the last 2-3 years while you've been doing it?
Mm-hmm. I think we've been through a lot. Us as Karty and the whole ecosystem, it's been an interesting journey and a lot of learning experiences, and the learning never stops. So initially, I remember myself and my co-founders like, okay, we have this idea, something similar to Monzo, Revolut, like these wallet players outside in the EU. And let's try to make something similar in Qatar with a local twist. And you look at it just as a product. Okay, it's a business proposal and you just build it, you can go to the market. Then we found out, okay, it's a regulated space. It's heavily regulated. And back then, I think initially there wasn't even regulation or payment service regulation within Qatar. So even the central bank themselves, they have evolved. I think they have at least 7 or 8 regulations that are already out across different sectors. And the involvement of the players like Qatar Fintech Hub, like QFC, they've been, to be honest, really supportive. I remember when we wanted to register the company with QFC, the fees back then were very high. It's like, okay, you're a new local company, it's a startup. We didn't know how to do it. So they actually almost held our hand. Okay, this is the process. We'll actually waive all the fees for you. And I remember even the address or the jurisdiction, it has to be within specific zones. They gave us like a temporary address until we set everything up. So I think majority of the players acted in goodwill, and they were very supportive, from QFC to QDB to Qatar Fintech Hub to even the regulator themselves. And to go back to our side as well, like it wasn't just building the product or the user flows or the technology side. We found out every decision we take, we have to check in terms of, is it compliant with the local regulation? Is it compliant with data residency? Does it comply with AML or compliance regulation? Can we actually do this? It sounds okay, very optimistic, certain ideas, but can it be implemented? So it's been an interesting journey, I'm sure, for all parties involved.
No, it is. And to be honest with you, you guys are the pioneers, the handful of you guys who are coming out, first into the market, right? And I think you guys are going to set the tone, which a lot of people will benefit from when they come later. Because as you said, the machinery will get more well-oiled.
It would be already established.
Yeah, and things will work more smoothly. So I think, the first cohort, I don't have a better word. I know you guys are not the first cohort as such, but I think you guys are going to set the precedent in terms of how things are going to evolve. So I think with that comes a lot of responsibility, and well done to you. So let me move towards, I'm cognizant of time. Let's talk about markets. I think you mentioned that a wallet has to be multi-market because it has to travel with the customer to a large extent. It has to become your companion, et cetera, right? You're obviously in the GCC, in other markets where there is a certain level of, I may say, um, a head start, right? I know a couple of very, very good independent wallets in the UAE that I've known over the years, a couple of founders like you, right, who have established themselves, and they have actually held ground against the big telcos and the big banks and so on and so forth, and they've carved out a very good niche. And I think that should be very promising for you, because if they can do it, why can't you, right? Um, how do you see yourself expanding into the multiple markets? Are you going to go through acquisition? Are you looking to get acquired and then expand? Are you looking to embed yourself in some sort of a large marketplace environment and expand that way?
Mm.
How do you see yourself expand into multiple markets?
I think across Qatar, we will work closely with our partner bank, Masaf Al Rayan or Al Rayan Bank. They've been really supportive, and there could be different initiatives that we can work on together. From an, let's say, regional landscape, that could be also interesting. It doesn't necessarily have to be where we enter directly as a wallet and we go and acquire the customer. Actually, a couple of the things that we have gone through, I don't want to say that you should boil the sea and build everything in-house, but we have a couple of unique internal, let's say, technological IP that we did internally and built proudly in Qatar, that we can sell components of our infrastructure or our system in different markets within the GCC or even internationally.
Interesting. So let me ask you a couple of questions. When you start building components and you're in the infrastructure game, you know, how easy has it been to access talent, right? Because you need engineering talent for that. You need that capability, product talent for that. It's not easily available. You're in an early environment. There's a lot of people demanding the same people, even the large banks are, right? Let me hook up the second two questions in it, because you can then have a free time to answer. Secondly, how do you guys look at AI, and especially agentic, right? In terms of how do you see it embed itself in your operating model? Are you already thinking about it? And are do you believe that it'll take off as quickly as some people suspect it will? And finally, are we allowed to speak about crypto? Uh, uh,
That's questionable, but
so
yes.
let's talk about the first two in terms of talent,
Mm.
and how are you going down the agentic
It's been
AI? Excuse me.
really
Yeah.
tricky, to be honest. Finding talent. Also, there we found out there isn't a certain playbook if you want to do something specifically from Memphis. It's a very niche area of building wallet. Sometimes you require bank expertise, but you're not a bank. So there is a lot of moving dynamics. And I remember initially, even when we were building out, it didn't start where we had our own team. We had sort of outsource agreements similar to any fintech. Then we moved to hybrid. But our goal from day one was to have it full in-house, to have full ownership, let's say, of our core functions or our core technology products. So we have a small product team, we have a small technology team. All are in Qatar. They're working together, and sometimes there is certain expertise or subject matter expertise. We hire people from different, let's say, who have these kind of expertise, but outside of Qatar market. We hire them on consultancy basis for, let's say, a couple of months or a couple of weeks to get that experience and to get that knowledge transfer to us. Then we can do it together. So, but we're all enjoying it, to be honest. Like from payments 101 to ISO messaging to infrastructure, how to make it available. Even initially, there weren't enough resources within the environment, either Microsoft, Google, etc. But then you know how to build a hybrid. And I think talking to other startups, talking to other founders, there is a lot of shared experiences that you can learn from them. That was the first part, if I correct.
It was around AI.
AI.
How do you see it play a role?
It's very interesting on how AI could be applied into the financial services. Definitely, there is a lot of use cases from transaction monitoring, fraud, catching anomalies. But from our perspective in Qatar, it can be a little bit tricky because you can potentially have a use case, but for you actually to have it compliant to the regulation, and there's definitely a risk with any AI use case or function you would like to introduce. So you really have to study that and to be innovative in a way of how are you going to get these AI resources. So, for example, we discussed a couple of POCs internally within Karty, but we reached a bottleneck that the GPUs weren't available within country. And from a regulatory standpoint, if you are processing sensitive data or PII, it has to flow through a local, let's say, host. Then you question yourself, are you going to buy H200 chips, even if you can acquire them? Are you going to become a data center operator or wait for someone else to do it? So it needs a certain balance, but at the same time, it's an ever evolving field. I remember a couple of weeks ago, I was checking with the team members and the colleagues. There was something interesting of utilizing the GPUs within the phone. So not to need, or for example, before you would need X amount of resources on the cloud or in Qatar. Now it might be that you require less resources while utilizing the GPUs within the customer's phone
itself
to be able to provide certain AI functions.
No, hey, you know what I like? You're at least honest with their answer, because most fintech founders, in my humble opinion, are over talking about their use of AI in terms of whether or not they're genuinely applying it. I call it, I guess it's not just me, I think we all call it AI washing, right? You definitely didn't do that.
It definitely happens a lot. Every company is
Yeah, because apparently the valuation sort of increases, right? So it's all a valuation game.
Yeah.
So I will let it be. Last question, sir. When do you go live?
Hopefully somewhere by end of this year or early next year.
So you're all ready now?
Yeah. Yes, we're ready for the regulator to say yes and to go to the market.
All right. No, I wish you the very best. I'm sure Karty will be a success. I'm sure we will interact a lot more. I come to Qatar quite often.
And please visit us. We'd love to host you.
And I'd like to wish you the very best.
Thank you very much, Arjun.
Right. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mohammed Suleiman, co-founder of Karty. They're about to go live. Not often do I actually get a founder who's brave enough, I shouldn't use that word, but who usually visits the couch. I think it's only the second time in the 165 episodes we've actually had a pre-launch founder on the couch. So that was something quite special. With that, I'll say goodbye till we see you again for the next episode. Bye-bye.